Hey, good morning, folks. This is Daniel from Ottawa, Canada, about an update on my ASC 365 International lemon lathe used that they sent me. It, this lathe is used, and I didn't know that it. Well, I suspected it was used, but I wasn't sure. And this is. I'd like to shine the light on this. I'm going to show a few things today. Upload this to YouTube. Amazon continues to defend the seller. I don't know why. I think it's some kind of politically motivated. Because my wife and I have a huge case against the Canadian government, and we sent it to the UN. And I think that I think it was politically motivated now that Amazon is, not being fair about this at all, period. They're backing up the seller. No matter how you cut it, they're backing up the seller. The seller, as I said before, advertises a 6-month parts warranty without question and a lifetime of service on their ad. This is confirmed by a number of Amazon customer service agents who read their ad to see, I guess, if I was speaking the truth. The customer service agent I spoke with, one of them yesterday, told me to take a screenshot of their ad where they on Amazon for this lathe and other lathes, where they state that they supply a 6-month parts warranty and unlimited service for 2 years, and to take a screenshot because the seller might try and take that out of the ad. Well, I said to the customer service agent, well, okay, but several of your colleagues have already witnessed the fact that it is in the ad. Did you not note it on my account file? So when I mentioned that to her, she then turned around and said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Now, here's my spindle. Now I'll shine some light on it so that you can get a clearer view. Oh, and there's my milling machine. I've had it for 3 years from CraftX, from Busy Bee. You can see that it's very clean. It's very well maintained. I've never ordered a part for it, not even a plastic gear, which according to other owners of this particular clone, have claimed that their gears break, the plastic gears. I haven't never even ordered so much as one plastic gear, and I've used this thing quite a bit. I just know how to use it. It's a mini mill, and it's not designed to be used like a Bridgeport. If you start using it like a Bridgeport, then the plastic gears are going to start breaking, and you're going to need several replacements because you're going to keep breaking them as long as you keep putting too much pressure on the gear. The reason why they use plastic gears in milling machines, and they do with all of them, they do with all of them because the idea is that when too much pressure is put on the metal mechanics of the milling machine, instead of the metal parts breaking or warping, like the spindle, for example, the plastic gear goes first. This is the case with all of Busy Bee Canada's milling machines. All of their milling machines have plastic gears, okay, including that one. That protects the components of your machine, the spindle and so on, from breaking or warping and bending, or the headstock under too much pressure, and so on. And that's why they have the plastic gears. The plastic gears indicate the limitation of the machine's capability, and they break before you destroy your little milling machine. I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube with this machine cloned, my mill. Some guys are putting 2 horsepower motors on the top of them. They're huge. The problem with trying to increase the horsepower of these little machines, you can't really go any further than the 750 watt upgrade to these little milling machines, and that's about the limit. And even at that, it's a strain on the spindle. And I do believe that they do sell at Busy Bee this machine with a 750 watt motor as well. I've got the 350 up there, and it's quite big and very powerful. But they've probably also upgraded key components inside the head and the spindle for the 750 watt motor. I would never put a 750 watt motor in this thing, nor would I put belt drive in it by Little Machine Shop. because the belts on the pulleys that are supplied with this kit to remove the gears, again, you can cut too much metal, and instead of the belt snapping, you'll damage something internally in the head. So that's my milling machine, and you can see it. You know, it's very well taken care of. It's like brand new. It hasn't got any paint missing. It's virtually, I take really good care of it. It's treated like a baby because I value my machinery. I'm much like Blondie Hacks and Tubal Cain and Keith Appleton, Joe Pye, and other machinists. And whenever you see their videos, one of the things you'll note is how absolutely clean and metalless their machinery is, and their benches are quite clean. Mine's a bit of a mess because I work in a very small space, and I don't really have enough room. This is a small bedroom, and I've got, you know, my belt sander there, and I've got my metal cutting bandsaw there, and I've got model boats all over the place. I've got, you know, up there another one. I'm a radio control model boat hobbyist, and but anyway, I just wanted to give you a little background. I think I've done so before, and I'm just doing it again. So okay, let's move on to the lathe. Here's a spindle, and this is an update. Here's a spindle. I took it out. Okay, this spindle is not brand new. It shouldn't have any burn marks on the bearing. This is the edges of the bearing surface. Here, this is the edge of the bearing surface here and here, and down below here you can see there's a wear in the middle. That should not be the case, and you can see it just gets darker, and you can see the burning, the heat distortion on, and this is the bearing surfaces on some side. And I want to show you the bearings. Now I want to point out that the instructions on this lathe indicate that you have to take this panel off, these four bolts here, and on the inside you grease the bearings on the inside here. This way you don't have to take the spindle out to do it, okay? And they indicate lithium grease. There it is. Okay, this is white lithium grease, okay, which is the only color lithium grease is in Canada, is white, as far as I know. And I buy it at Canadian Tire, and I'm sure if they offered some other colorful brand other than white, they would certainly have it in stock. But when I took the spindle out, this is what I found. First of all, excuse me, I have allergies to make my throat itchy and I have to cough. I'm allergic to my felines, my cats. Now, if you look at this bearing, what's on it? Okay, the grease that I put inside here, and I bought this grease because the instructions said lithium. These lathes come all greased with a brown colored dirty grease over the bed, the ways, and so on. When you get them, you all know you have to unpack them, and you got to clean off all the grease and oil down the machine. My machine is very well oiled. Matter of fact, I don't bother putting oil in the nipples, except for the cross-slide nipple, because it's hard to get oil in here. I put oil on here every day. Every time I use it, I got oil on here. Every time I use the lathe, any lathe, when I'm cutting a lot of metal, I pull out my vacuum. I let the metal build up for so long, and then I pull out my vacuum and I vacuum all the metal right away. It spits all over the floor and everywhere else, and I quite often step on it and get slivers in my feet, which I have to pull out with tweezers. But yeah, this is it. And so they call for lithium grease. Here it is here, and it's white. Okay, so I bought the lithium grease. You have to. The manufacturer of this lathe says that you have to pull off this panel, and you have to grease the bearings from the inside so you don't have to remove the spindle, which makes sense. And they tell you have to do this. Like, you have to do this. These come ungreased. The bearings are not greased. Okay, that's why with this lathe they tell you that you have to grease the bearings. Okay, they are ungreased. Now that being said, this is the front bearing right here from the front. And you can see that that's not my grease. You know, this is not my grease. And let me just wipe off the bearing here. Just a minute. I put my phone down. It'll just be a second. I don't like keeping it down and talking, but just wait a minute now. And let me just wipe it down. I took it out yesterday. It came out with the spindle. And by the way, the other thing too is this spindle is quite well worn. It really is. Because I'm going to tell you why. How I know. Because the bearings on this, on most lathes, I had a 7x14, okay? And I took the spindle out because my 714 had the cheap bearings, which are not designed to take side loads. And a lot of guys were putting in these bearings into the 7x14 because these bearings can take a side load. When I took my spindle out of my 7x14, I bought bearings for it, this kind here, roller bearings. And when I took the spindle out, you know, again, with the other spindle, the front bearing is here, and it was very hard to get off. It was very well pressed on. I don't have a press, so I basically tap it lightly with a hammer and a piece of wood all the way around, very gently. And I spray lots of oil lubricant on top of the bearing here, around the bearing, so it seeps in. And I do the whole shaft, and I just lightly tap it out. And it took me, the bearing on my 7x14 was so tight, it took me 2 hours to slowly, you know, move it off. That's how tight they are. This is the front bearing of this spindle. It came off, it was loose, okay? And the races have been worn. You can tell because when a bearing like this gets worn, there's a lot of movement of the bearings here. So what happened was, this guy buys it, okay? He lubricates the bearings, but he used the wrong viscosity because this grease is blue. You're supposed to use lithium. This is not lithium. So then he runs the lathe, and because he used the wrong viscosity, the bearings started heating up on the bearing surfaces of the spindle, as you can see, and I'll turn it again, right? That's what happened. Now I say, if you go on AliExpress and you look up a W210V metal lathe spindle, okay, you'll see 3 or 4 ads there. That's the companies that sell them in China on AliExpress, and you'll see. Take a good look at the pictures and how new they are. You know, I mean, nothing on them, not a scrape. They're brand new and shiny. Well, look at this one. This is mine, and my lathe's brand new, and I haven't used it. There it is. Again, I point this out. Okay, in the light, I'll put a little bit of light on it so you can get a real feel for what has happened here. I don't know if let's see. There's the light on it. See? Now you can see with my light just how bad it is. See? This is the top bearing or the back bearing. You can see where it's been heating up the surface of the spindle because that's the wrong grease. Okay, that's why. And also, here's the bearing cap retainer, and I'll show it to you. Again, what's that? That is not lithium. So, as far as I know, it isn't, and that it cannot be the right grease, because if it was the right grease, it wouldn't have heated up on the edge of the spindle where the bearing sits. Here, you see the outer edges have been overheating, and down here, you can see middle wear. You can see a circle of middle wear right here, okay? And that's a sign that the bearings are not getting lubrication, and they're heating up the spindle and leaving these marks in it. So the point is this lathe, I just found out now. I got the lathe delivered. I bought it on the 23rd of December, 2023, delivered on January 15th. It has not been used because I've been in a dispute with Amazon and the seller now since January 15th. Okay, as a result of that dispute, I essentially refused to use the lathe for most of it. Now, once I got this compound slide here, as I said in my videos, is the new one. The old one was warped from corner to corner. And I put it on my glass surface right there, and because I don't have a granite block yet. and it was clicking on either end. It was clicking on top of the glass, so it was warped. And I didn't feel I should have to mill that with my milling machine. I didn't feel that it was right that I should have to, put it in my milling machine in my vise and just mill it down slightly. I didn't feel that I should have to do that, so I requested a replacement. The tailstock I already pointed out, and the tailstock should, its whole circumference, especially on this lathe. On a 7x14, you'll note that the tailstock on a 7x14 sits on more of the circumference of the bed than this one does. And it's a priority for this section here, which is the section that really grips the lathe, because the other side, as you can see, doesn't do much. It's really important that the whole tailstock in this case sit right flat and its entire surface on the bed. And this one's not doing it. It's sitting up by 0.004, as I said before, on an angle upward like that, okay? So it's not gripping the bed. That explains why it slid back when I tested it, trying to drill in with a 10 millimeter drill bit into some 1018. It moved backwards when it was locked. So because it has less of a circumference to bolt down, like to clap down on, unlike the 7x14. If you look at the 7x14, where did I put it? I gotta find it. It's over here, and I'll show you. This is my old 7x14, which I never used. Hardly at all, neither, because I got it. It was completely a mess. Well, there's the bed. Here's the bed of my 7x14. The tailstock sits over the same groove as the saddle. There's no groove on this side, so you have more of the tailstock pressing down on both sides of the 7x14 bed, whereas on this one you don't. Okay. So I was taking the spindle out of the lathe here. I've unbolted all the gears and everything, and they're all over there in that box. All the parts are there. And I was unbolting it because I need to replace it, and I needed the company to, under the warranty, send me a new spindle. But I was quite shocked when I pulled it out. First, there were all these burn marks on it, and there was blue grease on the bearings. And this grease has to be the wrong grease. It's gotta be, because it's burning here. Now, these burns cannot possibly resulted when I tested the lathe. I ran the lathe at about, it was in low gear, and the speed I was running it at was between 700 and 900 RPM to test it, and that was all. And I only ran it twice. So this is where we're at. So I pull the spindle out, and I see that the lathe is used. This would explain why this seller absolutely refused to supply me a new spindle. They even told me, they ended up telling me, oh, we don't have any spindles, sorry. The reason why is they knew that this was used, and they knew when I pulled out the that right away I would know it's been used. So they've sold me. So now the situation's changed with Amazon, and now this seller deliberately sold me a used lathe. Okay, that's what they've done, and it's simply because the previous owner put the wrong grease on the bearing that caused the heat marks on the bearing surfaces. That's what happened, because you got to use that. So I'm just, again, I'm doing this video to let you all know. Amazon is being really disgusting. And again, I ask all of you out there, machinists who view my videos, could you please contact Blondie Hacks, some of you, and Tubal Kane in the US, and my friend Keith Appleton in the UK of mainsteam.uk, and ask them, you can contact them, leave them a comment, all of them, and ask them to look at my videos. Joe Pye is another one. These people really know their business, and I can tell you flat out right now, I ask my fellow machinists who have been home machinists for all their lives, you tell me, is this lathe used or is it not used? The spindle should look like the spindles, the new spindles that are pictured on AliExpress. Okay, now here's the lathe. I mean, look at it. I mean, it looks brand new. It's got lots of paint. The lead screw looks fine. So, it's used. The bottom line is it's used. And I paid for a new one, which changes the situation here. I would ask all of you to contact the seller in Toronto, ASC 365 International. You can call them. They're on Midland Street. You can look them up on Google. They have two phone numbers, 727 and a 3 something or other. And to call them and say, why are you ripping off Daniel Fitzgerald for? Why wouldn't you supply parts that you openly indicate in your ad on Amazon? And they're still indicating free parts for 6 months on Amazon and lifetime service. Of course, they can't service these. I know we all have to service our own. There's no service centers in our countries for Chinese lathes, except for maybe Grizzly and maybe Busy Bee. I'm not sure if they even service them. I think they just send you parts for free that you need if something breaks down due to defectiveness. But if you could call them, and I would ask all of you to call Amazon at their toll-free number and tell them you're calling on behalf of Daniel Fitzgerald. Tell them my email address is d7of7@gmail.com. Now, they all know. And tell them, say, why are you doing this to this guy? Why are you supporting a seller who's been dicking me around with the warranty since I bought the lathe? She refused to supply me with a new compound. They refused to supply me with a new tail stock foot plate. They said that the foot plate was within tolerances. With that much surface for the compound slide to grip on the right side there, above the lead screw, I really think no, it is not within tolerances because it slid on me. So I'd really appreciate some support from you people. I'd also ask all of you who spread my videos around, and I would ask all of you to post in your videos to tell newbies, new people that want to buy a lathe, not to buy it on Amazon, period. Don't buy any of their lathes. I ask you to help me protest Amazon. Don't buy any accessories from them. Buy nothing, and support me, because we need to group together, because for a long period of time, unfortunately, China keeps sending out, shipping these lathes. We have to clean the iron dust out of them. We have to repair the chucks. We have to request parts replacements because, they're not milled properly or they're damaged or whatever the case may be. And we should not have to use our milling machines to repair a manufacturer's lemon, okay? Many of you out there build parts, or you build steam engines and you sell them. When you use your machining equipment to try and make some money to help pay for the costs of all your cutting tools and motors and various things on your equipment. And we're getting sucked by Chinese companies into, these Western guys we're sending crappy lathes to. Oh, it's okay. We can keep, we can keep this up and send defective lathes to people in the West, and they'll just repair them themselves, or we'll just give them a refund and they can lift up the 150-pound box and send it back to us, and we can even get them to pay for the shipping, okay, is garbage. So, this can either continue, this kind of activity by these Chinese sellers in our countries through distributorships and retailers in your countries, or we can group together on this one case and force Amazon and this seller to refund me my money for this pile of junk. And it is a pile of junk, and all the gears are too loose on the back. You can't tighten them up. I have to add washers to all of them because the gears are moving in and out, and the teeth are off center, not catching each other for their whole width, and it's clacking like crazy. Also, the other problem with my machine is I requested a new circuit board, because the circuit board on this one here, I noticed when I was turning it on, the motor was cutting in and out, and sometimes the machine I turn it on, I turn the dial to 300 or 400 RPM, and the whole machine just lights out. The electricity gets cut off. This is a defect in the circuit board. Again, the situation has changed here. This is a used lathe, and one of the ways you can tell a lathe is used, one of the only ways, is the spindle. And in this case, they didn't put in a new spindle. They should have. That would explain again why the seller just was outrageously refusing under all circumstances to send me a new spindle. Why? Because she knew when I took out the old one, I would find this, that it's used. So also, I believe that this was sent back by a customer, and well, obviously it was, because the spindle indicates that, and because it's used, and they, I don't know what they did, they repainted it or whatever they did, and this is what I got, okay? So that's the end of the video, and I'm updating all of you. I cannot win this case without support from fellow machinists on YouTube. I'm not out to rip anybody off. You know, I paid $1,700 for this piece of junk, and they had the obligation to sell me a new lathe. This lathe is not new, it's used. And you can even kind of tell, like, you can see the paint here is chipping off. It was like that when I got it. So, and also the tailstock, as I wanted to point out, I'll take it off, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll show it again because I gotta go. You can see the, hold on, you can see the, I'm just gonna lean it this way. You can see where there's thick globs of paint here, which tells me this thing was repainted. Like, you can see it. You know, it looks like it's been repainted here. You can see on the surface here the globs of paint that are sticking out. So, you know, this is what they did to me, and I don't appreciate it. So, I've told Amazon about this. I've told them, look, you know, the lathe is, I bought it in January 15th. It went through A to Z. The A to Z people kept stating they weren't receiving my responses when I was emailing them. However, my wife and I have had problems with our internet connection. I get lots of people who email me, and when I try to email them back, I never get a response because my internet's being cut off on my mobile iPhone Pro 12. So this happened during the A to Z claim, and that's why there was miscommunication. All I asked is for Amazon to enforce the replacement of the parts for this thing, because the seller is not honoring the warranty. It's now April 24th. I only have another 2.5, 3 months left on the warranty for the parts, and I'm just getting screwed. So I have to order a new tailstock from a new spindle, excuse me, from AliExpress, and also a new tailstock. And I have to buy it myself, and it's going to cost me well over $200 by the time I order it and pay for shipping and then the duty and taxes when it gets here. Then I got to put it in, and this thing's going to need new bearings, and because this bearing it's shot, and I don't need to describe it. You know, when I put the bearing cap on over the flange here of the casing, and I press it in. The bearing's running really loose inside the race, inside here, the big bearing for the race. It's running loose, so that's not good. Mind you, the spindle was fairly stiff. There wasn't really any run out yet, but you can see again where the bearing started to, you know, they started to blacken the surfaces, and you know, you can see in some spots they weren't touching. In other spots they weren't. The reason why I think this is because the outer side here was touching, but up here it wasn't, which could also mean there's some kind of imbalance or the bearing's too loose, and therefore it's missing here. It's not touching here. And this bearing came off very easily off the spindle. My former 7x14 lathe, you know, as I said, I took out the spindle to replace the bearings with roller bearings. These bearings, because the bearings in it, according to other machinists with a 7x14, the bearings could not take side loads. So a lot of guys were switching over to roller bearings, which I did with this lathe. And I had one heck of a time getting the bearing off of the spindle, the front one. And it took me 2 to 3 hours lightly tapping it with a block of wood while lubricating it and the shaft so it would come off. This one here slid off this thing in 2 minutes. So there's a problem with clearances, and anyway, I'm gonna go. I'll put this thing up, and you know, I really appreciate some support from all you machinists out there. Amazon makes me sick, And I'm asking all machinists, don't buy anything from them. Don't buy any stuff from Amazon. Don't buy their lathes. Don't buy any accessories. Just stop buying in support of me. And then maybe the seller and Amazon will start feeling their profit margins go down on metal lathes and accessories. And then they'll understand that I got through to a lot of machinists, because I need some support here. I cannot afford a lawyer to file a civil suit against a small claim civil suit against this supplier. That means I'd have to take the lathe into a courtroom and put it up on a table and show the judge exactly what they did. I would probably win, but the cost, I don't even have a car to haul the thing in. I have a scooter. My wife and I can't afford a car. And so that's just virtually an impossibility. And then I'd have to spend hundreds of dollars. The case would be held in Toronto. I live in Ottawa, 400 kilometers away. That's the way the court system here works. Wherever the event occurred is where the matter has to be held in a small claims court. So that means I'd have to go to Toronto probably to small claims. I have to pay for a hotel room, stay there maybe a day or two. That's going to cost me a lot of money. And I'd have to take the bus there. And so anyways, I got to go, and I'll upload this right now. And God bless all of you. And I appreciate all your help. Needless to say, I'd also like to point out, as I did in my other videos, like I ordered thousands of dollars worth of equipment from Amazon when I ordered this thing, and including my milling machine, and I ordered calipers, and I ordered like 4 vernier calipers, or 5. I ordered 5 of the DROs that you put in yourself. 2 of them are already mounted to my milling machine on the back and on the side. On the side, here's mounted. I haven't done the one there because the bearing went on my saw, and I went to make it on here, the bearing, and that's when I found out that my stock in the chuck 1018 was out by close to 3,000. And then I checked the chuck was out by, again, just under 3,000, and it was the spindle boss right here. This piece here was under milled quite a bit. So enough to throw the chuck out to the point where I could not get cut around into a round. So I'll let you go, and I'll upload this. Goodbye, God bless.